My name's Mark Callion, Mr. Saltwater Tank, and this is Mr. Saltwater Tank TV. Today, due to popular demand, we're going to be talking about my tank. I'm going to be talking to you about all the different pieces of equipment that I have in my tank, as well as telling you why I chose what I chose to go on the tank. But before I get into that, I want to give a shout out to my friend Phil up in Canada, whose daughter was born yesterday. Congratulations, Phil. It would really mean a lot to me if all of you all watching went to my website, mrsaltwatertank.com, and then click on the Facebook link, and on my fan page give a shout out to Phil saying congratulations. He's the father of a brand new baby girl, so congrats to him and his wife. Have a good one, Phil. Don't sell the tank just yet. You got a couple of years until she wants that prom dress, so keep growing out your corals, and then you can sell the corals, not the tank for the dress. Congratulations, buddy. So let's move on to my tank, but before we do that, I want to take you through a little bit of history to tell you about where I started and what tanks I got to before I ended up with this 90-gallon mixed reef tank. So let's take a travel back in time right now. My first tank was a 29-gallon standard issue aquarium. My wife gave it to me as a birthday gift, and the first day I had it, I changed it from a freshwater tank to a saltwater tank. Because hey, saltwater tanks are better. And I made all the classic rookie mistakes with this tank. I didn't add enough live rock. In fact, I added live rock instead of dead rock, and then I didn't add enough, and then I added too many fish too quickly. But hey, I didn't know my tank personality. I didn't know that I was a tank dabbler, so I had a confused tank. My second tank was a 55-gallon tank that I found off Craigslist. And when I got this tank, it was a wreck. There was algae hanging off the rocks. There was a yellow tang that had been beat to a pulp by the damselfish in there. But this tank took me from a tank dabbler into a reef enthusiast because I started adding corals. And once I outgrew that tank, then I made the switch to the 90-gallon mixed reef tank that I have today. For lighting over my tank, I decided to do things a little bit differently than most people do them. What I did was I built a fake canopy and I put my fixture right on top. Now why did I do it this way? Well, two reasons. Number one, price. It wasn't a whole lot of money for me to build this fake canopy. And number two is heat dissipation. By having my fixture sitting on top, it really takes the heat from my lights. It dissipates them really well into the room as opposed to putting all that heat into my tank. Now in my tank I'm running dual 250 halides, and I've got dual VHOs inside of there for actinic supplementation, so things get a little bit hot. But with the fixture, it's kind of old school, so it looks a little bit like it came out of a bomb shelter. It's got cooling fins on the fixture itself, which helps dissipate the heat, and then it's got one computer fan on the end pushing air over the lights and back out again to help dissipate that heat as well. This keeps the heat into the room as opposed to putting it in the tank. And as opposed to just having the fixture sitting on legs, by having my fake canopy here, I get to keep all that light inside of the tank. Because there's really nothing that I hate more than going to someone's house who has their lights up above their tank and you're trying to look at the tank, but then you got these lights in your eyes and you can't appreciate the tank unless you look up high. Then you want to look at something down low and you can't do it. So this keeps all the light in, lets all the heat out. That's the lighting side of my tank. Let's go downstairs and talk about what's in the sump. Here we are downstairs underneath my tank. I'm going to talk you through my sump and everything I got going on in here. The first thing I did when I was looking for a sump was I wanted to get the biggest sump possible for the space that I had. And I wrote a blog post about this called about even going big downstairs. Because a bigger fish tank is better in the saltwater aquarium world, so that's why I went with a 90-gallon tank. But then I wanted to make sure I had a big sump down here. I didn't want to get some 10 or 20-gallon fish tank, convert it into a sump and try to squeeze everything in here. I wanted to use all the space in my stand since I had it nice and open. I found this sump on a local fish club for sale section. It's acrylic. It holds about 15 gallons and it's got 3 different chambers. First one's the skimmer box. It's got a bubble trap. It's got my refugium here in the center and then a small bulkhead over here on the right where my return pump sits to send everything back upstairs. Water comes down from my overflow and flows into a 200 micron sock that I replace every couple days. And this sock helps polish the water. It's going to catch any sand or detritus that comes down from my main tank. Moving on, I have an SWC cone skimmer. I've had many skimmers throughout my lifetime in the saltwater tank world, and I can easily say SWC cone is the one that I've been the most happy with. Why is that? Well, a couple things. One, it's very quiet. I've had a couple skimmers that are really good about being quiet. The Reef was good, the Vertex was good, and the SWC is right in line with those. So that made me happy. Number two, and it's got a little gate valve here, which makes fine adjustments to my skimmer really easy. The gate valve is a lot easier to adjust than some of the old skimmers that had a slide valve. or even ones that had a twist valve for the output, because I can see, I have a gauge on the valve, I can see how much I'm adjusting it. And this valve is up high out of the water, so I don't have to get my hand wet every time I want to make an adjustment. Next, I have my bubble trap here to catch any bubbles that might be coming out of the skimmer. I have no problems with micro bubbles getting back up to my tank. Next, I have the tube holder here. I'm running dosing pumps on my tank, so I'm dosing magnesium, I'm dosing calcium, and then my top-off water comes through one of these dosing pumps too. And this tube holder here is really great because it keeps everything up out of the water. I can make sure those pumps are working. They won't get clogged because they're not going to get filled up with algae that might creep up there, or a crab or a snail that might block the tube. And it just keeps everything nice, neat, and tidy. It's all right here. I can keep an eye on it, and they're not flopping all around. There's no danger of me hitting these and them getting outside the tank on accident. So moving next, I'm running a bulk Reef supply dual reactor. One part is the GFO and the other part is the carbon. I replace my GFO about once a month, and then I replace the carbon every 2 weeks. And also in the middle section is my refugium. I have live rock rubble underneath here just to provide more filtration for my tank, more biological filtration. The refugium really isn't used anymore since I'm carbon dosing my tank. The algae really doesn't grow, but it makes it for a nice place for pods to grow, hang out in here. Some of them will make their way back up to the display tank, and then every now and then I'll grab a piece of live rock from down here in the sump, throw it up in the display tank, help get some pods back in my tank. And then finally, I have an Eheim 1262 return pump, sending all the water back upstairs. So that's it for the equipment side of my tank. In the next episode of Mr. Saltwater Tank, I'm going to be taking you into the display portion of my tank, talking about the fish I have and the corals I have, and showing you how I got to this point, because it didn't just happen overnight. I wish that things would just go boop and it was this easy, but as you know, in reef keeping, building a beautiful tank takes a while. So that's it for this edition of Mr. Saltwater Tank TV. Until next time, have a good one, enjoy your tank, know your tank personality, and remember to give a shout out to my friend Phil off my Facebook page on my website, MrSaltwaterTank.com. Have a good one.